Welcome to the Autistic Culture Podcast Advocacy Edition. In these episodes, we tackle the issues that matter most to autistic people.
Each week, we share our insights and the experiences of our guests on how to live authentically and thrive as autistics.
I'm Dr. Angela Kingdon, the linguistic autistic.
And I'm Matt Lowry, licensed psychological practitioner. Let's dive into strategies for living your best, most authentically autistic life. Episode 88, Reframing DSM Autism Criteria. Hey, Angela.
Hey, Matt.
I hear that the people have made a request.
The people have made a request. Actually, let me tell you a thing I did. You know how there are all these neurodiversity affirming therapist directories?
I've heard them.
Floating around the internet.
I'm on a few of them, yes.
You are, indeed. So I thought, getting ready for season 3, what I would do is I would reach out to the therapist, because I know a lot of therapists recommend us to their clients.
Oh, nice.
And so
Thank you, therapists.
Thank you, therapists. Exactly. So I was like, let me reach out and let me just say, like, hey, in case you don't know about us, this is our podcast, and maybe it would help your clients. Lots of people recommend us. And I have this like amazing long list of therapists. Tisha Moon, Jennifer Huffman, Camille Long, Alyssa Brooks Dowdy. See, you know a lot of these people. So I just wrote to them.
Hello, friends.
Out of the blue, because I'm like, no, I'm just like the podcast producer. And they're like, yes, I know Matt. I love Matt. I use his work all the time. Whenever I do an autism diagnosis, I include his reframing autism diagnosis, reframing the DSM perspective, and I share it with them. And his spectrum graphic, I always include this. And I was like, God, we need an episode on this for our therapist listeners and people whose therapists have referred you. Hello, welcome.
Oh, that's super neat. I like that.
So I thought, what better day than today for you to walk people through how you have reframed the DSM. This is like somebody's like PhD dissertation project, except I think you just did it on a Tuesday.
Yeah, just kind of casually redefine the autism paradigm there, as one does on a
do.
And it really legit just happened on a Tuesday there, because a long time ago, I met a whole bunch of neat people in this group called Neurodiversity Affirming Therapists.
Mm-hmm.
And it has since imploded for various reasons. Oh. But the friends we made along the way still stick with us, and we're, great. And while I was in this group, we were talking about, autism criteria, why autistic people are labeled the way that they are, and I just off the cuff came up with well, we've got a problem with the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, Volume 5, now text revision. This is the big book of psychology, the Bible of psychology, and the way
the insurance companies decide who to pay and how much to pay them. Yeah. Most importantly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. The autism has every psychological quote unquote disorder is included in this. It's considered what it wants to be, an all-encompassing document that has every potential neurological variation in it.
And this is the same document that at one point called being gay like a
sort of Okay, so that's the thing. Like DSM, the first volume, about several decades ago, said that all women have hysteria, that children have a disorder of adjustment because they don't understand how to live, and yeah,
Children are a disorder.
yeah.
Homosexuals are, I don't know, what is it? So sociopathic deviance or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was some sort of the paraphilia, because they're like, yeah, we don't understand why they like their own genitals so much, and yeah.
Oh, right,
so,
that's what it is.
yeah, they're so obsessed with their own genitals that they wanted it. Yeah, it's
okay.
So the DSM is essentially a document written by outsiders who study people but don't understand the people that they study. That they understand,
and it's
that
also
people
a by committee thing, right? Like I feel like everything done by committee is a disaster.
So one of my
a compromise.
So one of my professors back at UK, Thomas Whittaker, he was on the DSM committee for since version 3 through 4 and 4TR, and he got really, really mad and stormed off the committee for DSM 5 because apparently the pharmaceutical companies were having far too much say in it because they wanted to promote their medications to solve these mental health issues. So there's a lot of flaws in the current system about everything, very pathologizing, very cure based, not neurodivergent friendly, not neurodiversity accepting. But again, the point is for neurotypical evaluators, neurotypical psychologists, neurotypical psychiatrists to have some sort of frame of reference to label and quote unquote treat all of these disorders. And again, if you have depression, yeah, you probably don't want that depression. You probably want the depression to go away. Right. But with autism, it's a neurotype. There are a lot of ableists and a lot of people who have internalized ableism that say, I'm different and I don't want to be different. I want to be like everybody else, but that's a whole self-esteem problem. So anyway, my friends and I were talking about this kind of stuff, and somebody in the group, the name has been lost to time, unless you actually look for it, in which case you'll find it. They were talking about how the DSM criteria not great because so the thing about I do autism evaluations differently than a lot of people. Just recently, someone from January asked for a refund because they went to somebody else and somebody else said, well, you didn't do an IQ test. You need an IQ test to make sure that the person isn't autistic. And they're like, no, it has nothing to do with an IQ test.
Haven't we debunked IQ tests? Like they're completely cultural biased. And
exactly. Like, you only did half the testing. There's no IQ testing here. That's not a good evaluation. Like, no, none of that has anything to do with being autistic. There's a lot of people that when you go in for an evaluation, they'll give you stuff like an IQ test, an aptitude test. I hate the WAIS 3. There's this the Wyatt. Is it the Wyatt?
The WAIS is the one that's like an IQ test.
Yeah, the Wyatt is the aptitude test that takes 4 hours to administer. It asks about a story about the baobab tree. And
that's the one people, you have to make up the story. People get real mad about that.
Yeah, all kinds of stupid shit. And it doesn't tell if you're autistic any more than your shoe size. So there's the one person out there gives the Wisconsin card sorting test to rule out dementia because he can't tell the difference between dementia and autism. So there's so...
You know what? He sounds like one of those people who, after 20 years diagnosing people with autism, discovers he's autistic.
Exactly. Because again, anyway, the DSM criteria is very specific on which criteria it considers to be, autism related. It doesn't include stuff like interoceptive difficulties, because a lot of people don't even know that word. It doesn't include proprioceptive difficulties. It doesn't include like medical conditions that overlap, like POTS, mast cell, endometriosis, PMDD, PCOS. Any of these things.
Fibromyalgia.
It doesn't include perception sensitivity. It doesn't include
what about hereditary factors?
No. Again,
which is like one of the biggest ones, right?
Well, that's the thing. When if you go back to the episode about bad autism diagnoses, when my son went to see that neurotypical evaluator in Louisville, the evaluator said, "Yeah, nobody really knows what causes autism." I was like, "Well, there's a lot of research out there that says it's genetic," and he said, "Agree to disagree." It's like, no,
it's not really a matter.
No, you don't get to disagree with facts. That it's serious. Ask any autistic adult about all the autistic people in their family. Look at the statistics. It's there, man. Just because you don't know about it doesn't mean it's not true. So again, a lot of these people are going based on the DSM criteria. So I took the DSM criteria and rewrote them to be more plain language and to help people understand. Because again, the DSM criteria are technically correct in the way that you identify a cat as a creature with 4 legs, a tail, and might meow sometimes. So if there are more things to being a cat.
I was going to say it is incomplete and weirdly worded, but
weirdly worded, very pathologizing. So anyway, I made up. It was literally Facebook at 3 a.m, and I just kind of hammered it out on my phone and submitted it. And then everybody liked it. And then somebody who was really nice put it into a graphic, and all of a sudden people started sharing the graphic. And then I got famous on TikTok, and now we get random tags on TikTok of people using this in presentations and stuff. Thank you all for spreading it around. I very much appreciate it. Please say who invented it. It was me. I'm more than happy to let you use it. Just point people my way, because again, sometimes people crop off my name and say, "Yes, I've come up with this great idea on my own." And no, please,
that's less
you can
fun.
use it. We just like to share the credit. That's I have a meme gallery on my website, mattlowrylpp.com, and I always have the original graphic, and it's full size with full attribution, because attribution is important. But anyway, so I came up with this at 3 a.m, and just said, there's a bit of a different way to do these things. This is how things should be done, and people tended to like it. And now I hear that people are actually using this.
People use it.
Thank you, therapists.
For sure.
Thank you, therapists. Thank you, evaluators. I appreciate you using this. It's thank you for using my brain baby to help people around the world. That's kind of neat. I didn't expect that. So we're going to go over this today.
We should walk people through it. Yeah, let's walk people through it.
This is going to be part of the forthcoming book that we still haven't decided on a title, because we've been through like 15 titles and still haven't figured out one that works, because again, I'm indecisive as hell. I'm at my best when randomly typing out stuff and throwing it on Facebook at 3 a.m, because I have no impulse control. So the DSM calls autism spectrum disorder. I propose that we reframe it as autism spectrum neurotype, because again, I agree that there is a spectrum of autistic traits. There's a spectrum of how autistic traits impact us, but there's not a spectrum of how much autism a person has. You either have a hyperconnected autistic brain, you either have the autism genetic makeup, or you don't. You might have more autistic traits expressed when you're stressed out, because autism is a dynamic disability. See that meme by NeuroWild. That's a very, very appropriate, that the more stressed you are, the more your executive function suffers, the more distracted you get, the more you stim, the more noticeably autistic you are. The more stressed you are, the more neurotypicals around you are going to ask, "Hey, are you autistic or something?" Yes, I am. Thanks for asking.
Right.
So anyway, we're going to go through each of the criteria and explain why the criteria are bad and how they can be made better. So the current model is there's a few different criteria, A, B, C. So criterion A is, and I will switch to my neurotypical voice for the bullshit answer, and then switch back to my normal voice, the autistic voice, for the autistic answer.
For the actual answer, yes. The actually autistic answer.
So the current model is A, persistent deficits in social communication and social interaction across multiple contexts as manifested by all of the following. I say, instead of deficits, we call it different social communication and interaction, as evidenced by the following. Because studies have shown repeatedly that we don't have deficits in social communication. We just socialize very differently than neurotypicals. For instance, like at Trailhouse, our autism center run by autistic people, there was this really great new kid that came in the other day, and we had a kiddie pool filled with corn. And you can come in, stim, play with it and everything. And there were 3 kids sitting in the corn pit, just rocking back and forth, playing. And this new kid just runs in, jumps in the corn pit, starts rocking, and, just starts doing the echolalia thing, repeating what they say. They repeat what it is say. He just vibed instantly. And it was so cool to watch because this kid was speaking his native tongue. This kid was speaking his native body language, and he just vibed so quickly with the other autistic kids. And his parents started weeping because they'd never seen that before.
Literally, okay, when you walk into Trailhouse, when you walk into most appointment-based facilities, there is a big table with a small person behind a big table, now
and glass,
with plexiglass in front of it. And then you're supposed to know the right things to say to the person. So you have to talk to them. So you're in a place, it smells weird, there's a lot to look at. And then you're supposed to say, I think, hello, I am here for my 3:00 appointment with Matt Lowry. But that's very hard to do. And then what's that person going to react like? And also, the person is usually on the phone and looks annoyed that you're there. And I'm not sure when to jump in. It feels like a bad game of double dutch. When you walk into Trailhouse, the reception desk is all the way at the back. And first, you have many STEM toys you can stop and play with. You have a library you can sit quietly in. And it's like, please take time to emotionally regulate before going about wherever you're here. And in the meantime, while you're doing that, someone will come over to you and just start playing with you. For me, it was with kinetic sand, but corn in a pool. And then someone will just come over and you're doing the check-in process without even realize you're doing it because you're just playing with a toy and emotionally regulating and getting used to the new sounds and sights.
Also, we have chairs of all different sizes and varieties. You can sit on the floor on a comfy cushion. You can sit on a triangle cushion if you like. Whatever works for you and your meat body, it's there. Because, again, people do their best when they're regulated. And, this is all about the ability to self-regulate and co-regulate.
It's just so obviously that is not a deficit. It is so clearly just here is how I prefer to socially communicate or socially interact.
Yeah.
Anyway, I also
this is the way.
See double empathy for details, but yes.
Oh God, yes. Yeah, we'll get into all that. But so anyway, criterion A, change it from persistent deficits to differences. So criterion A1. Deficits in social emotional reciprocity, ranging, for example, from abnormal social approach and failure of normal back and forth conversation to reduced sharing of interests, emotions, or affect, to failure to initiate or respond to social interactions. And it pisses me off that we use the word normal in a document like this. Again, it pisses me off that there's deficits. The double empathy problem shows that we actually have a lot of empathy. Studies have shown that we have hyper empathy. It's just not, neurotypicals don't see it. And neurotypicals don't have empathy for us because they don't understand the differences in our empathy, which causes a lot of, again, when the neurotypicals using the DSM use this to evaluate us, use this to judge us, use this to label us, they go based on their own experiences, their own interactions. When my son was evaluated, the evaluator decided that my son has an IQ of 70 and was a bad conversationalist because my son wanted to discuss electric towers and milkshakes. And instead of saying, "Hi, how are you?" He didn't ask about my family. No, I don't care about your family either, man. How dumb am I? So it pisses me off that we have this ableist view of what intelligence is, and saying that people have a deficit because they don't do what the all-knowing evaluator expects. And here's a fun fact: I'm qualified to do evaluations. So if a neurotypical comes in my office and wants to make small talk about the weather, can I say they have a social deficit? Legally, I can, but I won't because I'm accepting of differences. So,
yes.
So anyway, my proposed model is changing it from deficits and normal and all that other bullshit to differences in communication, tendency to go off on tangents, tendency to talk passionately about special interests, and tendency to not engage in small talk, because even neurotypicals hate small talk because it's largely just a sonar ping to make sure that the other person is a human being.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is a better criteria. So the DSM criterion A2.
Oh, then I'll give you A2.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay, so A2, according to the DSM, is deficits in nonverbal communication behaviors used for social interaction, ranging, for example, from poorly integrated verbal and nonverbal communication to abnormalities in eye contact and body language, abnormalities, okay, or deficits in understanding and use of gestures, oh my God, and a total lack of facial expression and nonverbal communication.
Yeah, because again, they don't get resting autism face.
This is the one that when we hear, especially so many women saying, "Oh, you can't be autistic, you made eye contact." This one dings us. This you have to, if you are an autism evaluator, you have to say yes to this one.
Yes, and that's the thing, because so many women, I get a lot of second opinion evaluations because of this criteria, because, a lot of evaluators will say, well, you wore makeup and made eye contact and you were social with me, so clearly you can't be autistic. You've got a lot of autistic traits, and you might be autism adjacent, but you made eye contact. So autism adjacent isn't a thing. So that's again,
I'm pregnancy
bullshit.
Adjacent because I'm female.
Yeah.
So I could be pregnant. Like I have been pregnant before. I'm a little bit pregnant. Okay, so what did you rewrite our poorly integrated verbal and nonverbal communication to?
It's bullshit. So I say differences in nonverbal communication, including stimming while talking, looking at more interesting things while talking, and being bored in conversation because I'd rather be doing something else.
I fucking win. Yes.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. If anyone can lock eyes and say, yes, I am very intently interested in the thing that you're doing, as long as we can, pay attention to it. But, honestly, we're going to be rocking. We're going to be, touching our fingers. We're going to be, playing with hair, chewing on the inside of your mouth, rolling your toes, doing something while doing this. And again, you may not be, putting on the big smile and say, yes, I'm very interested in the thing you're saying, because again,
one of the things...
what's the one thing that every woman wants to hear? Why don't you smile more?
Yeah, smile more. My mom would always say, turn that frown upside down.
Fun fact, we're recording this on November 1st, the day after Halloween, the ideal day to go out and get discount blood capsules to put in your mouth, so that when a man asks you to smile, you can bite on the blood capsule and blood will just come out of your mouth when you smile. So, yes.
Now, that is a fun fact. I'm going to see if I can put those in the show notes. You mentioned resting autism face. I think we need to talk about that a little bit. I might have
like Greta Thunberg. Yeah, because again, people, why doesn't she smile more? But that's the thing about us. Elise Myers on Facebook and YouTube.
I love her very much.
Yeah, she had this one great video of, I'm here doing this thing that I love, and somebody will say, "What's wrong?" It's like, nothing's wrong. I'm having this great time. She's just sitting there furiously knitting with a frown on her face, with a furrowed brow, and like, yeah, that's how we work, because we don't pay conscious effort to what our meat body face does, because that takes a lot of effort to be aware of that. So we might be having a great time, but just completely set to default mode. And like, are you angry? No, why? You're like, well, because it looks like you're scowling. No, this is just my face. Thanks for asking, though. Yeah, I'm not scowling. I just have a face.
Just facing. Just the face is facing.
That's just how we do. So,
ready?
So you do have the DSM criteria up?
I do. I have it up.
Yeah. Okay. You read all the DSM criteria, and I'll read all the better criteria.
I'll be the bad guy. You be the good guy.
Okay. There we go.
So now here is the third one under A. All three of these are required. This is the third and final one that's required. Deficits in developing, maintaining, and understanding relationships.
Understanding. Oh God.
But I might have that. I think that one's accurate. Ranging, for example, from difficulties adjusting behavior to suit various social contexts. Oh, I can't do that. To difficulties in sharing imaginative play. Oh, Jesus. Or making friends. To the absence of interest in peers. It doesn't say the absence of interest in boring peers talking about shit you don't care about.
So again, when we here, let me grab a toy over here, because I'll grab whatever's nearby. So one of the things in the ADOS, the Autism Diagnostic Observation Schedule, second edition, module 2, 3, and 4, is this test, right? And the ADOS, in theory, it's actually a pretty good idea for a test, because the theory behind it is that it uses everyday objects to figure out how autistic people interact with their environments and how they differ from neurotypical people. And that is a great idea, because we do indeed interact with our environments differently. So having everyday objects around to see how we interact, that's a good idea. I like it. The problem is the neurotypical interpretation of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the ADOS kit, there's actually 3 off-the-shelf Batman action figures that they just, from Diamond Select Toys. My kit came with 2 figures from the TV show Gotham, Mr. Freeze, Azrael, and it came with a Dana Scully action figure. So
That's
all
bizarre.
all three from Diamond Select Toys. You can go and just get them. I prefer Big Bad Toy Store. Big Bad Toy Store, please sponsor us. I love you guys.
Yeah.
Most of my money goes to you. Please sponsor us. So you can go out and buy these action figures off the shelf. They just came in little poly bags, didn't come with any accessories. But the theory is that you give these action figures to a neurotypical person, and they'll like play with them and speak for them and make them fight and say, I'm Batman, blah, blah, blah. Hello. Or I am a king. I am a queen. Let us battle, or whatever shit.
Okay.
And if you're autistic, you don't do that. You might stare at the action figures because they believe we don't understand imagination. Imagination. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, but really, what we're doing is, because we're bottom-up processors, for instance, like this ornament. My son loves fountains, and he saw this ornament. He's never seen the TV show Friends, but he saw this ornament that has a fountain. He's like, need fountain ornament. If fountain ornament has friends, need friends, because he likes the idea of having friends. He likes the idea of water. He loves fountains.
Also, who doesn't like an idea of a couch in front of a fountain you could sit with your friends on?
Exactly. So the thing about us being bottom-up processors, we won't make it makes sounds. Sorry, I actually hit the button.
I was going to say, does that talk?
Yeah. So anyway, instead of smashing them together, we are more likely to look at the things and look at the details, look at the sculpted details, look at the painted details, look at the articulation. We study the intricacy, the intricity. We study the details, details words, and again, we are less likely to play by ourselves with that out loud. I had this wonderful kid in one time that was studying and sort of making a move back and forth to each other, and I said, it's kind of interesting that you're playing with them, but you're not making them talk or anything. He said, I'm not playing with anyone. I can make them talk inside my head. And I'm like, yes, you can. You can.
Point, my friend.
Yeah,
that is an excellent point.
Yeah, because that's not a lack of imaginative play. That's autistic play. And again, as we've established, Walt Disney, George Lucas, very autistic. Lots of autistic people have great imaginations and rich inner worlds. Just because a neurotypical doesn't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So the criterion has been changed by me. Due to differences in communication, autistic people tend to be shunned by neurotypicals and therefore are conditioned to believe that we're somehow less social. Note, this criteria is reverse scored at Comic-Con, in a comic shop or gaming store, or when around other autistic people.
Right.
We had plans. We were going to do a live show from Gen Con. It never happened because we wanted to do a Gen.
We were going to do that. Yeah, we should do that this year.
We need to do a Gen Con episode because again, when you go to Gen Con, just about everybody there is autistic as hell. It's when I went to BotCon, the Transformers convention, I once bumped into one person and 5 people apologized. Everybody there is autistic. It's so great to see people cosplaying and getting such intricate details and going full throttle in the things they love. And again, we will socialize out the wazoo when we are comfortable. My son's mother, when we went to BotCon, right? BotCon is the Transformers convention, Autobot, Decepticon, Robot Convention. BotCon, just the greatest name ever. BotCon was run by the same people for many years, then it stopped, and now the name has been picked back up, but I haven't gotten to a BotCon by the new people yet. But anyway, the old BotCon, you would go to a convention, you would go and meet people like autistic Frank Welker, who voiced Megatron, Soundwave, Freddy from Scooby-Doo, and like 900 other people. You would meet these people. You would go to a dealer room and peruse the thousands of Transformers and other 80s stuff there. You would go to panels and learn stuff about Transformers. And you would go to a dinner where you would dress up semi-formal, button shirt, have a fancy meal, and converse with other Transformers fans. And my son's mother and I went to this dinner, and we sat at a table full of women, all autistic women, all autistic Transformers fans.
Perfect.
And my son's mother knows me as a person who is fairly introverted. When we were around her friends who like to talk about how much they could drink, how high they could jump, and how often they got arrested. I did not speak because I had nothing to contribute.
I have nothing to contribute. Yeah. What would I?
So she was convinced that I was antisocial because, and again, so she was convinced I was antisocial.
You were going with that. Okay.
She was convinced I was antisocial. When I visited her family, and her racist brother-in-law was talking about how certain minorities are bad for certain reasons, and like, no, I don't want to deal with this. He would make hamburgers and not wash his hands before or after. No, I'm not going to have that. Thank you. And so anyway, we were sitting at this table, and I turned on the Tism charm. Oh, yeah.
I've seen your Tism charm, my friend. It is pretty hot.
I was sitting there captivating a table full of autistic women with witty charm, jokes about Transformers, talking about the nerdiest shit off the top of my head. I guarantee you, had I not been married at the time, I would have gotten a phone number or 5. Right. So yeah, and she got a little annoyed by this. So when we got done eating, she was like, "Yeah, I'm ready to leave now." I'm like, "Okay, goodbye, ladies. Goodbye, Matt. Good to meet you, Matt." Everything. And she was like, "Why don't you do that around my friends?" I was like, "Because your friends aren't nerdy." It's like, I didn't know you could do that. And I was like, I do it when I'm comfortable doing it in the right environment. These are my people. and that's the thing, at Trailhouse, I am the host with the most because I could talk about this kind of stuff all day long.
Right. But it's like when
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, Barry White. No, but I feel like all the things that make my stories so captivating fall so flat because I apparently have trouble developing, maintaining, and understanding relationships with neurotypicals.
Seriously. Well, that's the thing. If it's a two-way, every relationship is a two-way street, whether it's a romantic relationship, again, see Cassandra syndrome, or a friendship or a work relationship. Everybody has to be willing to put in the effort to meet the other person halfway. The other person has to be willing to understand you. You have to be willing to understand the other person. And oftentimes we put in the effort, but the other people don't meet us halfway. So they think we fall short because we're not jumping the entire gap.
Right.
And that's the thing that sucks because they say, well, why aren't you doing more to accommodate us? Well, dude, I'm doing as much as I humanly can.
These are all the things.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing because again, like with the guy who, said that my son has a borderline functioning IQ because he wouldn't talk about Happy Meals and electric towers. This dude was not interested in talking about electric towers. He wanted to talk about his own life. Why is that the option? Why do the neurotypicals of the world get to decide what is appropriate conversation material? If I want to talk about geodes, damn it, we're talking about geodes. Right. If someone else wants to talk about geodes.
If you're anything like me, online quizzes might be your guilty pleasure. That's why I am so excited to announce the Autistic Culture Quiz. It's fast, it's fun, and it's pretty to look at. But best of all, it might just change how you see yourself. Take it right now at bit.ly/autistic culture quiz. If you've ever felt like you just get autistic culture, but you don't know how to explain it, this quiz will help you explain autism from a non-medical perspective. Each question is based on one of the 10 pillars of autistic culture. Take the quiz now and improve your cultural competency. It's totally free. Just go to bit.ly/autistic culture quiz. And autistic culture quiz is all one word, all lowercase. This is the way. I've told this story here before, but when I was house hunting in Oxford and I sat down next to this mom and son, and the kid was like, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 years old, and he had a stack of 30 books in front of him all about German tanks. Of various levels of sophistication.
This is the way, yes.
So I ordered my, I don't know, pile, steak and ale pie. And then I said, hey, what's your favorite German tank? And amazingly, we hit it off, and I learned a lot about German tanks, and he was charming. And his mom kept apologizing to me. I'm like, what on God's green earth would you apologize for? This is a charming, fascinating kid who has just told me more about German tanks than ever in my life have I learned.
You want to know what so in Kentucky, there is the Kentucky Railway Museum. Everybody there is autistic, as one might expect.
It's a railway museum.
Exactly. So we went to go see Thomas the Train there, as is the way. We make a pilgrimage every year to see Thomas, and every time we go down there, you run into a volunteer, and the small talk is, have you ever restored a diesel locomotive? And then they get into the intricacy. I'm down for that, man. Tell me all about it. I want, give me the data. Pour it into my brain, man. I want that. Give me an info dump. Info dump is my love language, man. And that's the thing. When dating, I want an autistic woman who's willing, able, and wants to info dump. Because I want to know what you're passionate about. I want to know why you're passionate about it. Bring me into this world, man. I love that. There is.
Criteria A is all about our social communication deficits. And our persistent deficits. You have to say yes to 3 out of 3. You've basically flipped those into describing what autistic culture communication looks like.
Exactly.
And if you are communicating like an autistic person, then you meet criteria A because you are using autistic communication skills.
We flipped them from 3 red flags to 3 green flags.
Ah, lovely. Okay, let's talk about B.
So read us off B.
Okay, so B, you only have to get 2 out of 4, 50%. And it says that's this one. Restricted, repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities as manifested by at least 2 of the following, currently or by history. Examples are illustrative, not exhaustive. See text. So you could have been like obsessed with, let's say, Michael Jackson when you were 10, like me, or you could be obsessed with Crowded House now. They would both count, but we want to see your stims and your spins, I'm guessing, is what criteria B is.
Exactly.
You got to have stims and spins.
Because again, they believe that you can grow out of the autism. And if you manifested before, we'll count it. But again, a lot of evaluators, fun fact, by fun fact, I mean terrible fact, a lot of evaluators don't believe adult autistic women and ask adult autistic women to bring their parents or their spouse to ask the parents or the spouse, because they don't believe that adult autistic women are accurate self-reporters. So they'll believe the spouse of an autistic woman, unless that your spouse is also a woman, and presumably you have to bring a guy in because, it's like that. Or your parents, unless your parents are also both women, in which case you probably have to bring a neighbor or something, or the janitor. I don't know. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's bullshit.
Old teachers anyway, that were mean to you.
Yeah. So anyway, the proposed model is repetitive behavior or interests as evidenced by at least 2 of the following. So criterion B1, what do we got?
Okay, so B1 is stereotyped or repetitive motor movements, use of objects or speech, e.g. simple motor stereotypes, like lining up toys, flipping objects, echolalia, and idiosyncratic phrases. Pulling muscles from a shell, from a shell, from a shell, from a shell.
And which is a whole other thing, but hold on one second, I got to call.
Stereotyped or repetitive motor movements.
Yeah.
I don't like how they're using stereotyped here. And what weird things to group. Like, I feel like they're grouping me lining up my toys and bouncing my knee. Why are
they are. Well, that's the thing, because again, it's what the neurotypicals can observe.
Okay.
And they don't understand why we do this. They don't understand the emotional regulation that comes with it. For instance, like right now, if you're listening, I'm rocking in my chair. You might see this on the YouTube video, but we find comfort in reducing chaos by lining things up. We find comfort in repetition. And again, it only mentions echolalia. It doesn't mention echolosia, the repetition of phrases inside your head. It doesn't mention palilalia. It doesn't talk about echopraxia, the repetition of movement. Because again, a lot of people will yawn when they see other people yawn. That's echopraxia. We're more likely to do that than allistics, just because our hyperconnected mirror neurons. We do all this because of the mirror neurons. Everybody has mirror neurons, but again, because of our hyperconnected brains, we're more likely to have hyperconnected mirror neurons and accidentally absorb other people's dialect, accidentally absorb other people's accent, accidentally repeat their body movements. This is how we hyper empathize with other people. And again, they see it as pathologizing. So we will rephrase this as stimming or engaging in echolalia, the repetition of words or phrases found interesting and quotable by the autistic person. Because
I like that. That's better.
We love them. We love the feeling of notable words in our mouths. Because if you come across a new word, you're like, oh, let me try that out. I'll take that for a spin. I will keep that in my brain and I will use that in everyday conversation. Thank you very much.
Yes, we will. All right. The next one is insistence on sameness, inflexible adherence to routines, or ritualized patterns of verbal or nonverbal behavior, e.g. extreme duress at small changes, difficulties with transitions, rigid thinking patterns, rigid greeting rituals, need to take the same route, obviously, or eat the same food every day.
Why would somebody shake up their route? Why would somebody say
do that? Are they just like, I'll just drive a random way to work today?
So that's the thing. If you know you have to be there at a certain time, why take a new route? That seems chaotic and insane. You say, I'm going to turn on Main Street today. See what happens. That's insane. Who does that? That's a psychopath, I'll tell you.
All right. Give us your rewrite. Give us your rewrite. There has to be something better.
So I say security in routines, because autistic people do not have a sensory filter. So the world is perceived as a constant state of chaos. Routines and expectations give comfort to overwhelmed autistic people. So this is the thing. We process 42% more data at rest than neurotypical people do. So we're chugging and chugging and chugging through all of this data. And anytime we can have categories, anytime we can siphon off the excess data to where we don't have to process that, that's more brain power to do the things we want to do and need to do. So I'm going to have a same route that I go every single day. So if there's traffic, I can deal with it. If there's an accident, I can deal with it. I'm not just going to shake it up. That's insane. I wear the same kind of clothes every day because I want to spend 10 minutes thinking about whether or not my shirt goes with my pants, goes with my shoes, because that seems insane. If that's one of your special interests, go for it. It seems like an extra burden to me, so I'm not going to do that because personal choice. I have my coffee maker.
Because one of your special interests is movies, you have the most elaborate system for uploading your Blu-ray and categorizing them and being able to find them. So
I'm full Kinsey on organizing everything so that I'm not just going to... What kind of psychopath just randomly throws all their movies? Well, I'll tell you, because again, it turns out most people don't have a lot of media. Most people don't buy a lot of movies. They might have 4 movies. I once dated someone.
We have none.
Yeah. So my
streaming subscriptions. I used to have like 5,000 CDs. I got rid of them all in one day and changed it for Spotify.
I ripped all of my CDs. I still have them in a briefcase because, those briefcase binders.
I remember.
Yeah, I still have them because if, the system fails one day, I still have all my music physically. But I ripped everything onto the computer, put them all into folders, put all the special features into subfolders, put everything into everything. So everything is organized because again, this would count with, difficulties and, rituals and rigid thinking and all that other stuff. But here's the thing. With the rigid thinking, this is back to the double empathy problem, because the neurotypicals are saying, why can't you do things my way? Why do you have to do things your way? Well, because my way makes logical sense for this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason. Why do you want to do things your way? Because it's the way it's always been done. And by the way it's always been done, it's been done that way for 15 years. It was passed down in a memo, and you never questioned it. And that's the thing. We're accused of rigid thinking, but they have rigid thinking about the rigid thinking, which is the double empathy problem in a nutshell. And it's very, very frustrating. So I don't understand it. It's madness, man. So anyway, then we come to criterion 3.
3 is highly restricted, fixed interests that are abnormal in intensity or focus, e.g. strong attachment to or preoccupation with unusual objects, obsessively circumscribed or pervasive interests. Hello, Swifties.
Pervasive, unusual. Yeah, because again, that they don't want to see, for instance, a lot of women's special interests are like social justice. And the neurotypicals don't see that as weird. A lot of women's special interests are their children or their families. And they say, well, that's just being a good woman. But if you read every parenting book...
even if it is Taylor Swift.
Again, a band.
People everyone's into Taylor Swift as opposed to an obscure band that nobody knows that...
Yeah, because that's the thing, that they only see, dinosaurs, that's weird. You shouldn't know that much about dinosaurs or, whatever. So we say a proposed model, special interests with a capital SP with a capital IN for special interest to make it spins, because I love the terminology spin. You spin me right round,
baby, right round.
We need music rights.
Baby, right round, round, round. Okay. Yes, go.
So due to hyperconnected brains, autistic people feel more passionately about what we love. So when we have a special interest, we tend to fawn over and fixate on it. It's a level of enjoyment that neurotypical people cannot experience due to the lack of connections. And this is the thing that we've talked about because, neurotypicals will talk about meltdowns and shutdowns, but they don't know about autistic euphoria because they can't experience it. And they don't like that they can't experience a good thing that we can. Right. There is no neurotypical that will experience the level of joy that my son has from his clock room. We put all those clocks on the room. He just sits there and smiles as he looks at his numerous clocks. He takes the clocks off the walls, rearranges the clocks, sets the times on the clocks, sits back and listens to the cacophony of all the clocks ticking. He loves the hell out of it. He's feeling a level of enjoyment that neurotypicals can't get, and they feel awkward because they can't feel that level of joy.
Right.
Just because they don't have that intensity. And these are things that we love and things that we need and things that should be nourished and cultivated because we need them to survive. And it's a very big positive for us. Plus, it's a thing that leads to art and creation. George Lucas loved and studied, Joseph Campbell, Seth, sorry.
The Hero with a Thousand Faces?
Yes. I was going to go with Creator Family Guy. Also is a huge Star Trek fan.
Seth MacFarlane?
Seth MacFarlane, yes.
And then he did that other show. Well, he's 100% one of us. That's why I can't. It is the most beautiful tribute. If you have not watched the Orville, please go see it. Seth MacFarlane is my boyfriend. I love him very fucking much.
I would love to get him on the show.
So beautiful. It is loving tribute to Star Trek you can imagine, and a great show in its own right, and a tribute and a great show and a tribute, and I cannot talk about it enough.
It is Star Trek The Next Generation. He knows Trek better than the current writers of Trek. Minus Strange New World. Strange New World is great. Check it out. But Discovery and Picard just did not hit the mark because I don't know.
They didn't. I did watch all of them. I like Picard, but Okay, you want to hear 4?
But Dan Harmon also loves Joseph Campbell. He wouldn't be the person he is without that passion, without that special interest. We wouldn't have the storytellers. We wouldn't have cartoons today if Walt Disney didn't have an obsession with cartoons. So these obsessions push our culture forward. We wouldn't have animation. We wouldn't have movies without Edward Muybridge. We wouldn't have the world around us with obsessives who needed to know and needed to do the things we do. We would just sit around being boring, and we don't need that.
Right.
So let's go to number 4.
Okay. Number 4, hyper or hyporeactivity to sensory input. Oh, okay. All right. Or unusual interest in sensory aspects of the environment, aka pouring water over and over again. E.g., apparent indifference to. Okay. Apparent indifference to pain or temperature. I'm going to let you know when I'm indifferent to pain or temperature. Adverse response to specific sounds or textures. Fuck you. This is making me angry. Response. Excessive smelling or touching of objects. By the way, we're doing this, I've been smelling this rock, just so you know, it's jasper, and I swear I can smell it. So
you can, because you can pick up chemical senses that other people can't. Go on.
I sure fucking can. Or touching of objects. I'm also obsessively touching this bumblebee jasper.
Imagine
visual fascination with lights or movement. I'm having all of this right now. Please explain the fucking apparent indifference to pain and temperature before I jump out of my skin.
Okay, so the Judge Rotenberg Center still uses electric shocks to quote-unquote treat autism because it is believed that autistic people can't feel pain.
Stop. I hate you.
Yeah, and the electric shocks are 3 times more intense than a police taser because, again, they believe that we can't feel pain. So
what in the actual fuck? Where does that come from? Why would they think we can't feel? Have they not noticed us complaining that we're hot and cold all the time?
So this actually has a long history in being othered, because medical journals, medical textbooks still claim that black people feel less pain than white people, and that black people have thicker skin than white people. Still, you can look it up and be mad about it. It is said that women don't feel pain because they can do childbirth and men can't. So, they don't need as many painkillers as men do. Because, again, and women don't feel temperature because they're perfectly okay with, the environment being as it is, instead of just not complaining because you don't want to be known as a woman who complains at the office and asks them to turn up the heat, because, again, the average office temperature was designed for a man in a coat rather than a woman in a skirt. So there's a long ableist discriminatory history of the belief that a certain group of people can't feel pain. But again, we might be in a monotropic focus where we are studying something and don't notice something. So outsiders say, oh, hey, they don't respond to this. They don't respond to their name. They don't respond to whatever.
I remember when I worked in theater, people would always comment on the fact that I could go at least 16, 18 hours without going to the bathroom, and how that was such an asset backstage for shows, because I never had to go to the bathroom, so I could call a show.
Comic creator and likely autistic man Todd McFarlane, who created Venom, created Spawn, reinvented Spider-Man, created Image Comics. He once said that his secret to signing comics at a comic convention is to just not eat. Because if you eat, you have to go to the bathroom. So he just won't eat for 23 hours at a time because he doesn't want to have to go to the bathroom. And he's all you have to do is just not eat. And it's like, Todd, sir, that's some interoceptive difficulties, because if you can just not eat, that's a thing. That's a TISM thing, sir.
I have that thing. Yeah. Okay, give me your revised number 4 before I murder these people.
Hyper or hyporeactivity stimuli, I'll agree with that. Again, due to hyperconnectivities and hyperconnections, we feel things more intensely. Sometimes, however, we feel things less intensely because we tune them out in favor of other stimuli due to our monotropic focus. Sometimes we'll go outside without a coat because we're too focused on the mission at hand. Sometimes we won't eat because we're too focused. Sometimes, we won't go to the bathroom until we, just explode. Sometimes we fixate on things because we are stimming and we want to absorb that sensory information into our souls. So we will play with the texture, we will eat the food, we will drink the drink, we will listen to the thing, we will look at the thing. Any way that you have senses is a way that you can stim. So we will do all of that, and that is normal for us. But the biggest one is criterion D.
Okay, so hold on. So we have A and B. A, you need all 3. B, you need 2 out of 4. And then there's C through E. Yeah. And you need each of these?
I believe so.
Okay.
So tell me C, tell me D, and tell me E.
Okay. So C is symptoms must be present in early development period.
Because you're autistic from birth, congratulations.
Okay, but may not become fully manifest until social demands exceed limited capacities, or may be masked by strategies learned later in life. I agree with that.
Because again, you can mask and when you're stressed, you're more likely to display it. So I'll agree with that. We will give the neurotypicals a pass on this criteria.
Right. So if you have all the things from A and B that you're supposed to have, but they just, had a car accident and then they showed up when you were 38, that is still potentially like a neurodivergence, but it's not autism if you didn't have it basically from the beginning. Okay.
We will allow that.
And it mentions masking, so that's great. D is symptoms cause clinically significant impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of current functioning.
And this is the thing that pisses me off the most, because these traits cause other people distress. The
Oh.
DSM only indicates impairment when it affects other people or jobs, but not when it's a daily issue that we learn to live with. This can result in autistic masking and burnout, which results in a decrease in quality of life for autistic people. Because again, I can put on the mask and I can do things all day long, but I'll come home and crash hard. And but again, people don't see it, so they don't consider that an area of distress.
So this is basically saying the symptoms are affecting social, meaning your relationships, occupational, meaning your boss, or other, it says areas of current functioning, but what they mean is like if
important
it's school,
areas of functioning.
Right. If it's school, if it's driving, if it's affecting other people, then it counts. But if you're somehow able to make it only affect you, then it doesn't, then you're not autistic. If you could like kill yourself and mask, then it doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And this is why we can't have nice things.
It is. It is.
Okay. So, and then E is these disturbances are not better explained by intellectual disability, global developmental delay, or to make comorbid diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder and intellectual disability. Social communication should be below the expected for general developmental level. So E seems to be all about intellectual disability, which is, I think, like 27% of us have a co-occurring intellectual disability. Which is
actually about average. About average. As the general population. Shocker. Because again, when you have that bell curve of IQ, most people fall in the middle, but again, due to hyperconnectivity, we tend to be gifted. So but again, we can have average IQs, we can have below average IQs, we can have intellectual disabilities because we are human. We can have a wide variety of experiences, but because that's a human experience, it's somewhat redundant for being human.
Got it. So you basically rewrote this. We're going to put it in the show notes so everyone can see them. We'll link it back to your blog. So if it helps you when you're evaluating, you can use these. Can you talk a little bit more about the spectrum wheel? Because we're also going to put a link to your meme gallery. What does this cover?
So I made, because again, I got tired of people talking about the quote unquote spectrum. So I made a spectrum wheel that shows how all of these different areas, including stimming and interoception and exteroception, proprioception and vestibular stimming, because it's the whole thing, how all these interrelate with each other. And again, when you're stressed out, you might see them more. When you're not stressed out, you might see them less. When you're living in a world that accommodates you, when I'm at Big Clock House, my current house, and everything in theory will be put up. The next time I see you, Angela, I'm getting mug racks from Amazon today. I'm because excited. I have instead of we'll do an episode about organization and systems and everything. Instead of everything on hooks, I got these little risers to put them on the top of my cabinets. So I'm going to have all of my mugs lined up on the top of the cabinets, and I'm going to have my bookshelf with all of my books over here. And then once I get those out of the way, then I can start working on my office and my museum downstairs and all this stuff. Once I have my place as I need it, I am at optimal functioning because the drain on my executive functioning is low. My stimming is high. I have what I need where I need it. My life is in place. And once my life is in place, I am the optimal autistic. Right. And I really, really hope that everyone listening to this, autistic, allistic alike, if you're neurotypical, make your world fit your needs. If you're autistic, make your world fit your needs. Every human being, every animal, every creature in the universe needs a space that is customized to your wants and your needs, to where you feel safe and secure, and dare I say, happy.
Joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea. Joy to you and me.
I love Three Dog Night because I love that is somehow a measure of temperature because, it's like, how many dogs we're sleeping with today? It's a 3-dog night.
3-dog night. It's a 3-dog night. This is a 3-dog night diagnosis. I want you guys to check out these links, especially if you are a therapist. If you are somebody who is thinking about getting a formal diagnosis, this is a good thing to arm yourself with. If you got a diagnosis that you still haven't integrated or made sense of, see if you can take what they wrote and reframe the DSM criteria for yourself. Share with us what you discover in the comments. We want to hear from you.
Yep.
That's what I got.
Have a good one. Thanks for listening to the Autistic Culture Podcast Advocacy Edition.
Be sure to tune in for our Autistic Culture episodes every Tuesday, where we celebrate autistic contributions to society, culture, and history.
For even more Autistic Culture, consider becoming a paid member for exclusive perks, like live Q&A calls with us, a virtual writing circle, and our new Self-Defined Living course by Becca Laurie Hector.
Fun fact, Matt, it actually costs us $8 for every minute that people see or hear on the podcast. But our member pricing is just $8 a month.
What a bargain!
What a bargain! Buy 1 minute and get 500 minutes for free. Seriously, if you can afford this, we really appreciate your contribution. It makes all this possible.
And of course, the best way everyone can support what we're doing is to rate, review, share, and subscribe on Substack or your favorite podcast app.
This is the way.